Hello everybody, my name is Taylor and I'm going to be your instructor for the next 16 weeks. I want to make a quick video just because we're not going to see each other for a while and there's quite a bit of information out there about this course and I'm sure that you're eager to hear all about it. So I just wanted to put a face to a name. I wanted to formally introduce myself. I put an About Me page up on Blackboard, but I wanted to take a few minutes just to maybe walk you through what the course looks like on Blackboard as sort of a general introduction, so that as you're looking through the content and getting familiar and then getting started on the first couple weeks of modules, that you kind of know where everything is. And then if anything comes up or you have questions for me, I am absolutely willing to answer those. I'm always available by email. Please, please, please reach out if there is anything that I can do to help you or make things more clear. Okay, so when you open up Blackboard, obviously there's nothing in the announcements. Well, there will be something in the announcements actually by the time you see this. But over here on the left, as you are probably familiar, you have your menu. The syllabus and the course schedules are all under syllabus and course schedules. I highly recommend that you just download every single one of these, print them out, start copying dates over into your planners, however you like to get organized. If there are any edits or adjustments or updates, I will update these and then I'll usually just put kind of a change log sort of text down below so that you know when things were updated. Any specific due dates for clinical is going to show up in the clinical section here. Right now the hospital clinical is open, but the school clinical is not because Dr. Sperry is still updating some of her documents and I didn't want you to have to download them again. But everything you would need for the hospital rotation is here. We will go over that more during clinical, at which point I will then update this with due dates for your assignments in that course. Your course content is where everything is at. So everything for this course is broken up into weekly modules. What I like to do is open them up 3 weeks at a time, so basically up until the next exam. So right now you have the first 3 weeks of information available to you. I don't like to gatekeep things, and I figure if you are the type of person that likes to work ahead, please do so. I give you that opportunity to do it, and then once you come in for your exam in week 4, I will then open up the next 3 weeks of modules. So the expectation, because this is a flipped classroom, and I know some of you have strong feelings about that, but I promise it will be okay. The expectation is that you have done these modules before we meet. So because we are not meeting next week, you basically have the next week and a half to do these 2-week modules. And then by the time we meet in class in person for the first time, you should have gone through weeks 1 and 2. The content for these 2 weeks actually were all part of 1 week and I split them up. So it's not super heavy, but let me click on it and I will show you what that looks like. They're all laid out in the same way. So you'll start with an introduction and then some objectives just to sort of help guide you on what might be more important, because obviously there's a lot of information in these chapters. Then I break down your assigned reading. This first section here just gives you a little bit of, some tips on how to effectively maybe approach the material. And then you have your ATI and your textbook. The textbook, instead of just assigning full chapters, which I think is not helpful, I have actually gone through and pulled out what I think is useful within the applicable chapters. So the majority of your reading is going to be an ATI. An ATI is already sort of a Cliff's Notes version, so I hope that you don't feel overwhelmed by the reading in this class. You are always obviously more than welcome to read all of the chapters in the Perry Hockenberry text, but it is pretty dense and isn't really necessary. But I would refer back to this text to complement ATI if you need more information about something or something feels muddy, and definitely for patho, because there's really not a lot of good patho in ATI. So your reading is here. The reading assignments are also in the course calendar. Please let me know if you ever see a discrepancy. I've moved everything over and I've kind of been updating and switching some weeks around, and I'm sure I've made a mistake somewhere. So if you see a discrepancy, please let me know so that I can clear that up for everybody. Your lectures are going to be below that. So as you can see, for this first week, you have a 25-minute lecture on Intro to Peds, and then a little 5-minute video that I pulled from YouTube that talks a little bit more about flipped learning and to help you understand why I have chosen that format for this course. I like to try to give you an idea of how much time you have to commit. So this week we're looking at about 30 minutes of lecture. Not bad, right? Considering you don't have to come in and meet me. And then this part down below is sort of just where I kind of dump resources. I find that everybody learns differently. I am the type of person that likes to get my information from multiple different sources. And so when I find something that's really helpful or neat or that ties into the objectives, I will drop it here. I will say, while I say it is optional, I do think that, the ATI modules specifically, I recommend you do them during your week if you can. This particular week is just about dosage calculation and safe med administration. But as we go through the weeks, I've basically done the busy work here and have gone through and pulled, because ATI is just very disorganized. I've pulled everything into ATI that is relevant for each week into one place so that you don't have to do it yourself. So if we go ahead and look, for example, at week 2, it looks exactly the same, right? We've got a little bit more in terms of videos. We're going to be talking about PEDS assessment, intro to growth, and then we do have an LGBTQ presentation, but still 45 minutes, okay? So those 2 weeks together aren't even 2 hours of lecture, right? The a la carte menu, though, is a little bit heavier. I do have a lot more ATI modules here. I cannot guarantee the quality of these modules, okay? Some of ATI, it's hit or miss. Some of their stuff is really good, some is not. I have just put it all into one basket so that you can go through it and see what resonates with you. So obviously some of these are better than others, but they are all the things that they have to offer that are applicable to what we are working on in that relevant week. And then same thing I'll show you for week 3. Again, looks exactly the same. This one is a little bit heavier in terms of lecture. This is about 60 minutes where we talk about infant and toddler development and then some immunizations and communicable diseases. And then below we've got, again, the ATI, but also I've brought in some stuff about PEDS vaccinations, some web links to Khan Academy that explains the stages of cognitive and psychosocial development if that's something that you want a little bit more help with. So every week I try to pull in some of those things just so that you have ample resources, because again, I don't want to gatekeep this information. I have no reason to trick you. I'm going to give you everything that you need to succeed. You are more than welcome to use this information as you like. If you likewise find an excellent resource, I would love to know what it is so that I can share it with everybody and kind of crowdsource a more effective lesson plan as I move forward. So those are your weekly modules. That's kind of going to be where you work out of. And then the other big thing that you're going to be focusing on weekly are your entrance quizzes, or think of these as ticket to class, okay? Every week before you come to class, you are going to have a quiz due, okay? And this is, it serves more than one purpose. One, obviously to check your learning before you come in, to ensure that you've done at least something. I know that not everyone's going to do everything every week. I'm a realistic person, but it ensures that you're at least engaging with the material a bit. The other thing that it can do is help you guide your studying. You can do these little quizzes. They're 10 points each. And if there's anything that you miss or that's confusing, go back and check on that. So for these first couple weeks of class, both of these are due on the 26th, right before we meet for the first time. Quiz 1 is only 5 questions, super simple. Quiz 2 is going to be 10 questions and is more representative of what they look like. And then moving on to entrance quiz 3, that's going to be due on February 2nd before our 3rd week of class. And then what I do with these is, because the class is flipped, I do still lecture. I don't know if anyone told you otherwise. I lecture, but it's a mini lecture. I lecture off of the quizzes. So when you come to class, the first thing we do as an opening activity is I go over these quizzes and we talk about the rationales. We talk about any muddy points. I absolutely encourage you to bring questions that you may have about the questions so that we can talk about and elaborate more. And that's sort of where the lecture comes in. So it's like I've already taken your ATI and I've made these need to know lectures, and then we do these entrance exams, and then you come to class and I tease it out even more to more specific things that are more clinically relevant that I find show up on exams a lot more, that sort of thing. So you'll have a quiz every week. They're always due on Sunday. I have made everything in this course due on Sundays so that there's no confusion. Your clinical stuff, at least for me, I can't speak for the school end, will be due on Sundays. And then down here I have a section for ATI. You're going to have 2 practice exams for ATI with remediation, and then your proctored exam with remediation. All the information you need is here. I've got the rubric that explains the proficiency levels for your proctored exam, because that does factor into your 10%. And then the practice exams, you get credit just for doing them. I don't know if most students know this, but you can do these over and over again. So I honestly recommend that you do them earlier in the semester, and then use them to figure out what content you are understanding and what you need to work on more. The due dates in your course calendar here are guidelines. That is the latest time you can turn it in. You are absolutely capable of doing practice A next week if you want to, and then maybe take it again later on if you want. The submissions are down here for those remediations, and then your example of how to do the remediation is here, as well with some instructions, okay? Med math is the big thing you're going to have to focus on, because we do have to have 100% by week 2 because of clinical. And so clinical is what bottlenecks us in terms of this. If you do not get 100% on the first attempt, I will go through and remediate. I can answer any questions you have about it. We can meet over Zoom if you want, or you can just try to take number 2. It's pretty low stakes here. It's not for a grade, you just have to pass it. So if you do not pass 1, I will contact you, and then I will open up math quiz number 2, and you'll get another chance to pass it. And the goal is that you have 100% by not this Friday of this, sorry, I am a week ahead. You're gonna have till the 25th to do this, not this Friday. I misspoke. But you can start now if you want. Nothing's stopping you from starting now if you're the kind of person that doesn't mind getting a head start. If you are absolutely like your boundaries are, I am not doing school until we are supposed to meet in class, totally fine. You have until Friday to get this quiz done. It is 10 questions. Just keep in mind, and this is outlined in your syllabus, that it has to be passed with 100% by week 2 in order to remain in clinical. I have some resources here for you, and then in your course calendar, I also mentioned the med math module and ATI that you can do if you feel like you need more practice for that, okay? And then the final thing is just I have some clinical resources down here for you to look at before you start clinical if you're interested in Pete's pain scales, maybe some tips and tricks on taking vitals or interacting with kids in the hospital. There's some videos and some growth and development stuff, and then some report sheet examples if that's something that you're interested in looking at. So again, just sort of a drop zone for everything and anything that you might want related to that. And that pretty much covers Blackboard. I'm going to head on back to putting my face on the screen, and I will wrap this up. All right, if you are still with me after that, thank you. I hope you have a fabulous last week of your last break before your last semester and heading out into the real world. I look forward to meeting everybody. Some of you I will see on the 22nd for clinical orientation, and then I will meet the rest of you the following Monday. In the meantime, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to email me, and I look forward to getting to know all of you over the next 16 weeks.